right, welcome to the Aaron Warner podcast on iCode Media. Today I have my good friend and longtime work colleague, Tami Franklin, joining me. Tami and I have had the great pleasure in working for a number of years, Tami, in lots of different aspects within the Vision Source community. But you are much, much more than just what you do at Vision Source. So I want to chat a little bit about kind of your journey in the optometry field, and then what you do now, perhaps what's within Vision Source, but also all the really neat things you do outside of it. So let's get started. So you want to introduce yourself for everyone?
Oh, thanks, Aaron. This is a real pleasure, and like Aaron says, we've worked together and we're great friends for a long time. So I'm kind of unique in my role here as a staff person. I often say I've only had 3 jobs in my life, only 3 jobs. And those being one right out of college. I went to tech school. We all have mentors, and I had a mentor in a cousin that had gone into paraoptometry and really encouraged me to go that way. Unfortunately, I lost that cousin at age 40 in the practice from a heart condition. And so I think part of the way I am and my reasoning is, obviously, it's a great career field. I tell everybody all the time, you work with some amazing doctors, great paraoptometrics, industry personnel. Like, that's been my why. And to carry on my cousin's mission of providing eye care. If you don't know, I come from rural America, so eye care in rural America is very different than somewhere in urban. We have a lot of care that we provide right in the practices for a lot of people. Relationships. We have a lot of relationships in eye care. And I think that's something that draws me into, I say, paraoptometry or optometry as a career. It's something that rolls right into, I think, what Aaron and I are going to talk about today in the philanthropic, the why, my why. But I went from that one job to another practice that I was at for 26 years. Vision Source practice, and then when we decided to make a change in that practice, came into Vision Source full time. I've been blessed to work with some amazing doctors that not only saw, my passion for optometry and paraoptometry, but my passion to just be part of the community, to give back. We've got so many wonderful patients that don't, really know what we do and how we do it, and they really want to connect with us. And those of you that know me, I'm kind of a people person. So this just worked right into my career choice. I wouldn't have it any other way, Aaron. I mean, this is what we do. And I can't imagine you. I know you and your dad, and I didn't have the fortunate to know the rest of your family, but it's what you do. It's just part of the relationships in optometry. So when we talk about my career, taking care of patients, that's what it's always been about. And I think that goes in the practice and then the relationships you build. When I say I'm from small town America, you see these people in the grocery store, you see them in church. It's the relationships that you build outside, even within us and all of our relationships. It's the relationships you build outside of work that really, honestly, probably are my bigger driver to why I do what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are from small town. I've been to on a little road trip tour with you, and I didn't appreciate small town until we went through some cool places. You introduced me to Deadwood and some others. So
Deadwood,
very cool. Oh yeah, that was fun times. A little cold, but fun times. You mentioned a couple times paraoptometrics, and which I think is unique when we talk to other doctors in practice. We either hear staff referred to as staff or staff referred to as their role. I'm an optician, I'm a technician. We're going to tangent a little bit, but dive into why you use the term paraoptometric, what you see is that the importance of that role. And then I know you do a lot of work on the national level with that role as well.
Yeah, so part of when I came into optometry, went to tech school, I really wanted that to be my career. And I am probably one of those people that really wants to be at the highest level. Like, I want to give myself 100% of the time. And so through the national level, we knew right off that I wanted to go into a career choice and have the highest level of certification. So my term paraoptometric really relates to just being part of that national scheme of things and national certification, and going through the levels of certification and testing to become the certified paraoptometric technician, that being the highest level. So that word probably resonates a lot from just my journey through the years in optometry. However, this is something that is a real goal of mine, and we have made progress. I will say we made a lot of progress, but typically, optometrists will hire somebody, just off the street that really doesn't know, hasn't been blessed to understand the career choice that they made. And I think sometimes we don't do a really good job of explaining how they can have a career right here in our own practices. I think there's opportunity for that. And so one of the things I've tried to do through my tenure through the years of paraoptometry is to really communicate this can be an awesome career choice. Your tenure in your practice is something that you really are the driver to. We oftentimes staff, I think, look to you, Doc, as what are you going to give to me? What's this going to look like for me? And that's something that I've tried to change a little bit, in that staff really look at it as what can I contribute to this team approach, and understanding that it is a team approach. I'm a firm believer, we never diagnose, we never come to treat a patient. However, there's always a game in taking care of a patient and how we can work together. And if they understand paraoptometry as a career, that's been one of my missions to really, my famous saying is, I hope someday, and I know I will get emails off of this often, but I hope someday that certification is required in our field the same way as it is with an LPN or in the medical field, because we're really in the medical field nowadays. It's not, just lenses any longer. So that's kind of my journey and why influence came from the national level. Obviously, when we talk about giving back, there's so many opportunities within optometry to take care of your patients. And then there's a lot of opportunities outside that you can really dedicate to paraoptometry outside of practice every day. So it's kind of been my why.
Absolutely. Well, we talked to one of your, I'm going to go on a limb and say mentees, right? Because I know that Brandy looks to you as a mentor, and she's talked quite a bit about her journey with her certifications in the paraoptometry field. And you do a lot of work on education. It's interesting that you say that we hire a lot of people off the street. We do. Not completely just off the street, but untrained people, right? I'm not rounding them up in the parking lot. But we hire untrained people. And it's interesting, I'm sure those listening have very similar experiences, is that we tend to run very slim margins. We tend to run very slim on staff. And so we usually we don't have backups. Right, and the backup is you get to do more work until I can hire somebody to put in that role and get going. And so being able to outline a journey for a new hire that goes from you have a job to you have a profession is tricky, because most of us weren't trained to lead teams. Right, we were trained to look at eyeballs and say which is better, 1 and 2.
Right.
But now I've got to, in the middle of a panic of, I'm down a person, now I need to hire somebody who doesn't know much, which, by the way, we do a poor job of, because then we put them right in front of the phones and say, be the face of my practice without knowing anything. And but moving them from a job to a profession, and I think you epitomize that, and the team you work with epitomize that. You even said, as a professional, I want to work at the highest level that I can. What do you think are the biggest hurdles to overcome? I know we have the paraoptometric certifications and multiple levels of it, and I know we've got different training courses for it. iCode Education with Chris has a great one. But what do you think are the real kind of where the rubber meets the road challenges for practices and leaders of the practice to help that new hire not see their role as a job but see it as a profession?
I think two things, and time is one thing. And I think we don't have the processes, and I'm talking to the king of processes here, right? The doctor of processes. But I don't think we have the processes in place in the practice we've never been a profession that really put into play some sort of formalized training or education. You can one and the same training or education plan in the majority of the practices. And to your point, you just stick them in and they are asked to take care of patient care, and they're in the thick of taking care of patient care at the very highest level, because that's what we want. We want the very highest level of patient care. And we don't give time, we don't take time, and they then are probably frustrated a little bit. They are now past where they see it as an opportunity to learn. They just don't, you got to capture, I always say, you got to capture a new staff person early on so that they understand the pathway. Otherwise, it's really hard to come back around and really teach that this is something that you're going to train about, that you have enthusiasm to learn. We get really reactive. And I think then we get into a motion of just being reactive to learning my job here. And if we want to talk about giving outside to any industry, I just don't understand that. I don't understand what's out there. I don't have the time. And there's 100 things on my plate. So I think processes, first of all. And the second thing is timing. We do run lean. We don't have a lot of margins in optometry, and we just have to take care of the patients that we're seeing day in and day out. So timing, I think, is huge.
Now, when you say time, you're knowing you, I think you're saying time within the practice, within the 8-hour day, right?
Yep.
Just to set aside to say, hey, it's not all running around putting out fires. We're going to excuse you from patient care so that you can
go do this
for your own professional development.
And I think time there, and then if you don't understand the time there, and I don't see the investment there in my own mind, I'm probably, and I'm not speaking for myself at all, but I'm probably not going to see the value of going to do something on my own for my own career. Again, it's not all about what you're going to give me as a doctor owner. It's about what am I going to contribute to my own career. If I don't see it as a career, I'm probably not going to dedicate time to putting in studying or going for a certification or helping in some philanthropic position outside. I'm just not going to see that if I haven't already seen that as a career choice. It's just another job, 8 to 5 job then at that point.
Yeah. Well, you brought up relationships, and I like to use metaphors, and to me this is a early dating relationship, right? If I'm interested in someone, I'm going to put in extra time. And quite frankly, the first 6 months of dating is probably more exciting than the next 6 months because, right, we don't have to have the big wows, right? But if I didn't have that first 6 months of excitement and fun dates and all sorts of stuff, then the second 6 months don't happen.
They don't.
And so I'm in my mind as I'm listening to you in that relationship, I need to make that, new to optometry, that experience, the role you play, fun and exciting, not always bells and whistles, right? But understanding the emotional wins, understanding the role they play, finding that why, as Simon Sinek likes to talk about, more than just answer the phone, push this button, hurry up and give me the patient in the time the window you have.
And I think without the formalized training, you think about a doctor, and you're really good about just the stories, but you think about a doctor, like you guys have given, I say 8 years, I put it all together. You've given 8 years to finally go out and do your thing in the profession. And there builds up some excitement and or some, okay, I'm just over this, I'm ready to go out to be my own doctor. And without that formalized training in a staff person, without a whole lot of, there's only a couple real formalized college programs out there anymore for paraoptometry or staff that I have to dedicate. I haven't invested that to be in the same position as a doctor coming out of school. So that's another miss that we have in the profession, is we just don't have the formalized programs to put those people into place in our practices. So you got to get that excitement. You got to create, like you said, you got to create that excitement. And 6 months is probably, if you haven't created some sort of, I see this, I can envision this, it probably just becomes lost in the world. Now, there's some exceptions. You have definitely those people that have mentors out there and relationships, and you have encouragement. I think that's our place too, Aaron, a lot of us, to say, you can be a doctor of optometry. You can be a paraoptometric. I'll help you. I think that's another piece to, and I don't always look at that as a philanthropic, but it's just, you can do this and you'll have a lot of fun doing it and it'll be very rewarding. So.
Yep. It took a little bit of time for me, well, a lot of time for me to figure out my mission as a leader as opposed to my mission in the exam room. In the exam room was great. As you said, I had 8 years total of training, and I'm pretty darn good at what I did in the exam room. But as a boss, as a leader, as an owner of the practice, it took longer until for me, I settled it down to where I enjoyed developing people. And so I'll tell new hires that day one is that, my job and my mission is to push you to your full potential. And that's probably not going to be easy every day. Right? I'm going to push you past where you want to be. You're not going to always like me because I'm going to hold you to a standard that I know you can get to. In fact, when I stop being hard on you is the day you should be worried, because either I've given up on you, which really doesn't happen, or I think you've achieved all you can do, which is pretty disappointing. And to this point, I've only actually found one person that I had to say, hey, I don't think we can do this, and that was the hardest fire that I ever had to happen. But it just, 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2. And but I think finding that mission of myself has helped me be a better leader, because I can articulate what I want. Then I can value the time that needs to be put into it, and I can value the dollars that need to get put into it as a practice owner, because closing the practice and going to a conference, paying for the whole staff to go to a conference, that's not cheap.
And I think that's where staff have to step up and just really understand that this is a team. Like, we are paraoptometrics, and if we as a team are going to invest in your and my education, what's the return on our investment? And I really need to step up and be able to articulate, how can I contribute to what dividends for the practice? And that's just switching that switch from, Aaron, what are you going to pay me 8 to 5? And I'm going to go home, to this is a team. I am a paraoptometric. This is a team of people taking care of patients for the greater good of the patient. But then I'm the first to say, and I've heard you say it, we run a business here, and this is business, and that's the vitality to keeping our patients to be able to take care of them, is the business side of it. So.
Absolutely. Well, I'm definitely not a nonprofit, but I do value nonprofits, because I think transactions and payment isn't always just the dollars and cents. It's the good that we know that we're doing in the community, the give back that we're doing in the community. And I know that's a huge passion of yours, which is really what I wanted to talk to you about 18 minutes into the discussion. And recently you actually were out in North Carolina with a good friend of ours, Dr. Haley Perry. Tell us a little bit about that experience and how it built up to what you guys were able to do. CooperVision and the AOA have partnered in a groundbreaking initiative to change the way optometrists in the U.S. treat children with myopia. The purpose of the Myopia Collective is to rally the profession of optometry and its allies to interrupt the status quo and elevate the new standard of care for children with myopia. Every individual is encouraged to become a member of the collective. By joining, you commit to taking action to help slow the progression of myopia in children. You'll receive updates and information about the collective and its work in the fight against myopia, gain access to educational opportunities and resources offered by the collective, and hear from change agents, the ambassador optometrists selected to serve as advocates for community and policy change that facilitates the mission of the collective. Scan the QR code or click on the link in the show notes to join the collective today. In the past, our focus revolved around prescribing MacuHealth or MacuHealth Plus to patients at risk of macular degeneration, while also recommending it to collegiate and professional athletes for enhanced contrast sensitivity in sports performance. However, this year's introduction of the Life Meter has been a game changer. The Life Meter revealed a concerning truth. Many of my patients have alarmingly low skin carotenoid levels, indicating potential deficiencies in essential body tissues like the retina and brain. Supported by over 30 peer-reviewed publications, Life Meter's accuracy, consistency, and effectiveness has been demonstrated across 2,000 subjects with diverse backgrounds. With this newfound insight, I can now have meaningful conversations about carotenoid levels with all of my patients, even those who may seem outwardly healthy. To learn more about this empowering technology, feel free to contact your MacuHealth representative or click on the link in the show notes. Together, let's optimize patient care and elevate their well-being.
Yeah, so Asheville, that was the pinnacle of the year for sure, and probably the pinnacle of many years now. And it's just that we have such an expertise that we can give to people in need. And sometimes it's right in your own community. This time it ended up being in Dr. Haley Perry's community, and devastating hurricane. Like, they hadn't seen this type of devastation. So I think that escalated the need there and took them totally off guard. So we were able to, with Haley's, you got to admire Haley. She just really wanted to give back to her community. She really wanted to make a difference. She will, and she has made a difference in her optometric practice in that community over years, but she really wanted to help in a time of need. So we put together the clinic to all the things that the philanthropic really give to you. Everybody that helped, you knew you were really helping people in that community. That the stories were so raw still when we went in, a couple months later after the hurricane, of my glasses, I fell, my glasses got washed away, my home is gone. There were still 3 shelters with 250 people in each shelter that didn't have a home to go to. Their glasses, while we think they're really an essential piece to our life, there was so much more in that community. Like, they're missing loved ones and all of the things. But to give that day and organizing a clinic, and everybody came together in the community to give back. It was all about taking care of others, knowing that it's going to be reciprocal coming back to them in years to come. It's just what you do. If you do good by your patients, it'll come back to you. It absolutely will. In any community, that's always been my philosophy when we've had the practices. Just give back when needed. It'll come back to you in business. But that day, we planned for 100 patients. If we could see 100 patients coming in the clinic, Dr. Lisa Green gave her clinic. It was a larger clinic than Haley had, so that we could accommodate. We had our elite vendor sponsors that we work with, those relationships of the vendors, wanting to give back to the community, the people, not just the community of optometry, but the people in that community. So we had a food truck out there, and they sponsored a warm meal for them that day. Some of them, they hadn't been to a food truck in months to have a warm meal like that. And we ended up seeing 154 patients that day, Aaron.
Wow.
And they all, I still get pretty emotional saying what some of the things I saw, but it was just a mother, trying to provide for her 5 kids that just melted in the chair when she got her new glasses. She's like, my world is back. My world is back. A little girl, you'll see her picture sometimes in some of the stories. She came in, she wanted pink glasses so much. She had quite the prescription, and gosh knows where her glasses are. In the rush, glasses were the last thing these people were looking for. They were just trying to get safe. And it's just those type of stories that you really are giving back to the community. So 154 patients, over 80% of those people didn't have glasses. So we say 80% fill rate, a need rate. It was a great day. Now, we were all exhausted, but the giving and the feeling of really making a difference this time, this isn't something that will continue every year, maybe even not. But giving back this one time to make sure you got people back up on their feet, they could at least see and read, just making life easier. It makes it so worth it. I can tell you, every volunteer, a lot of them hadn't been on a kind of a mission like that, or a day of a clinic like that. They were exhausted, but they're like, this is the best day I've had in years. Yeah. It really makes, I don't know what you say, but you do really good in clinic. You're a very good doctor, a very good clinician, and you give the gift of sight every day, we say. But when you get to a clinic like this, it probably makes that 8 or 10 years, however many years of school, really, this is why I did this. In my heart, this is really giving back, even though I didn't get a dime for it. That's not the intent. It's really the heartfelt, I am making a difference. And I say, doctors of optometry, optometrists, have the biggest hearts in all of the medical profession. So it really is the why to so many of you guys giving back. And then we just fall in line as a team member.
Absolutely. Well, it fills the emotional bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, often, that's more important than the financial bank.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about a team. I'm curious. So the 154 people on the optometry team, not the food cart team. That's the food truck.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The optometry team. How many were there? And of that team, how many were doctors and how many were paraoptometrics to make this happen?
So we had paraoptometrics, we have opticians. Some people will call it opticians if they really were more just lens oriented and not so much prelim type people.
Yep.
And then we had about 30 doctors that helped us throughout the day, just switching every 2 hours, some sort of rotation. We ended up with, I think, about 100 volunteers throughout the day.
Wow.
Just people from the area practices. We did incorporate retail. Retail wanted to help. It didn't matter where you came from. If you had a skill set to flip some dials, look at some health, do some prelim, help pick glasses, adjust glasses, you were needed there. And so 100 volunteers just in the clinic with Dr. Lisa Green and Dr. Haley Perry kind of organizing that rotation schedule and just seeing patients as thoroughly as we could, knowing that they're going to need eye care. And a lot of them, the clinics, they need to get back into the clinics. And so that's where they're driven, is right back into eye care. But this is a one-time thing where we could just get them through to get them back on their feet so that they could get back into just regular routine vision care. But that's how we did. They'd come in, everybody, not one complaint all day. If you can imagine that, not one complaint in this clinic all day long. Everybody just working their little butts off to provide eye care, and that many people. It was awesome.
So that's awesome. And
Yeah.
I'll challenge your number of 154 just a little bit because I think 154 patients were helped, but I'll add another 100 when you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 254 because often in emergency times, we need to feel like we're
Mm-hmm.
able to contribute, right? We
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to give back, and having individuals like you and Haley and Lisa and Amir who help organize events like this to give that opportunity for people who need to contribute back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
we all needed to contribute back, and we feel like it kind of set them up, gave them a little bit of normalcy at a very unprecedented time for that area to like, you can carry on. Here's one more thing you can check off your bucket list to that getting back to some normalcy in your life, and finding where you're going to live or how your meals are going to happen and the roads. I mean, how you're going to get along around and all the things. But here was one more piece, a little piece to the puzzle to providing some normalcy back in their lives and happy times. Like, it was just the mother, the father that brought the daughter in, the middle-aged lady. She literally said, I reached down for my glasses. I couldn't catch them in the water. I'm sorry. She was apologetic to us because she couldn't grab her
Wow.
glasses as she fell in the water. And it was just a crazy story.
That's insane.
It
Now,
is.
let me ask you this because thank goodness we don't have tragedies like this all the time. Right?
All the time.
And they happen, but thank goodness they're not hyper frequent. They're not always in every community. What have you seen in your work in across the field in your philanthropic efforts and teams? What have you seen teams do to help their local communities, to serve their local communities? Obviously, Haley's in what you did in North Carolina. I don't want to say he's on the extreme end, but more on the extreme end, right?
It was.
What do you see practices do kind of on a day in to day out basis, and how they can just constantly be giving back and be involved?
Yeah. One thing I think we all see in our practices is definitely there's always an area that we could contribute to. There's an area of sometimes the unknown just to get eye care out there. I love, and this will not shock you, in communities, I think education, eye care education. I just found some stuff I had from AOA that I had searched for a practice here locally, just in education, so getting into the schools and talking about that, but teaming up and collaborating. We talked about relationships. We all have a great understanding of eye care and the need for eye care. Medical doctors, pediatricians, all of those type of professionals, they get a little bit of it in their education, but sometimes I think it gets lost in all the other things that are going on in their own profession. And I think sometimes one thing that practices can do is have those collaboration, have those relationships with the other medical providers so that we aren't missing vision care, eye care in our communities because of a lack of understanding. And what I mean by that is new parents, we don't know what we don't know for the first year of that kid's life. And I think the more people that we have in an understanding, that's one thing I think you can do. But then I think where you were going more so is need, kind of a need base. And I think there's always people that we'll see in our practices, even rural America, my practice, maybe more so, I don't know. You see it, I'm sure, in the city, that there's a need, and sometimes they slip through the cracks of vision insurance or vision care, third-party plans, and all of that. But there's a need that you can, and I know, here's what I do know, in all of my career, what happens is if there's a need, you all just step up and take it out in your own pocket. You made sure it happens if there's somebody that has a need. And I think that can be more prevalent in having the relationships to use some of the resources that are out there that, we did the clinic in Ashville through one site, the Esler Luxottica Foundation, just because that was the resource that we could use, that we were familiar with, to provide the actual materials, the glasses, the lenses and frames for these people. But you also have all those resources in just collaborating on some resources that if you find that you want to do a day clinic ever so often from your practice, I think there's good in giving back to the community. I also think there's probably some organization that you need to work with somebody to know who really is in need. I think on a daily basis, you probably have people coming through that have some sort of need, maybe not daily, but at some cadence, you have people coming through with a need that you can give back to the community. One of the things I think is missed often is all that we do as a profession, and we don't want to really verbalize what we're giving back, and obviously you got all the patient information that you don't want to give out, but I think patients need people in your communities, in your areas, in your communities of your big cities, need to understand how much we do give back and how much we care for our people that we're serving, that we're just not looking for transactional business and just keep giving it one way into our practice. And I think sometimes those relationships also create opportunities for activities. And Aaron, I know you're kind of a big runner. And I think this is one thing I've seen in the communities. Sometimes we get into some opportunities where we can give back in some of the other things we do that you can round back into optometry. Those opportunities provide other ways to give back to the communities, but then round it back into optometry when the need arises. So I think it doesn't always have to be an optometry. There's resources out there for optometry.
Yep.
But just being integrated in the community and the other professionals in your community is a huge opportunity.
Absolutely. It's all about relationships. And I'll share two things that we've done over the years in the practice. The first is that, so I'm in San Diego, but I'm a little bit more rural San Diego. There was a rodeo attached to my kid's high school, right? People drive trucks. Not the San Diego you typically think of, but we wanted to work with the Lions Clinic, but that was a half-hour drive for me to get to down to their clinic. So that really was a bigger commitment than I wanted to do on a frequent basis. And I asked them, I said, where do your needs come from, your patients come from? And they said, all over. I said, well, instead of me driving down, we'll set up an hour, schedule. And so you can fill that appointment slot with up to 3 people just tell us who they are, and they all would show up at 9 o'clock in the morning. That way they nor I would have to drive all the way down to see you. We can just do it out here where we both live. And so we did that for a long time. Lions Club had some change of personnel locally, and that has yet to be put back into place, but it was super, super helpful. The other thing we did, and you talked about education, is reached out to all of the administrators in the local schools, from the elementary, middle schools, and high schools, and not to go in and give formal education, just to say, look, we know that there's going to be a kid that falls through the cracks, right? You know it, a kid that needs glasses and for whatever reason just falls through the cracks. If that's the case, all I need is your recommendation and an approved letter from mom saying that I can see the kid, and we'll do the exam. We'll make sure they have glasses, whatnot. Just tell them to bring whatever insurance information they have. Well, 99% of the time they had vision benefits through their insurance. They just didn't know, so it allowed us an opportunity to educate on that. Now, we didn't turn it into a sales, right? We weren't still charging them. I was still honoring, and I'll be honest, the schools took very little. They were very worried. They didn't want to take advantage of our offer. I wish they would have even more, right? Because they would tell me, hey, I think this kid, I think that kid. I said, guys, come on, send them in. Although my favorite story on that one, there was a young man who was homeless, was a ward of the state, and living out of his car, 16 years old, and he was a -6 and playing football without glasses.
Loved playing football. That was his passion, right? I
loved playing football, right? And with tight end without glasses, I said, I don't know how you're functioning. and then he got glasses and he tried to wear them under his helmet, and I said, no, absolutely not. So I sat him down and said, look, football is one of your tickets to college, right? This is an avenue for you. Great football player. Said you can't go on like this. So I'm going to give you contacts, but under one condition. I want to see your grades on a monthly basis. Right. So if I'm going to provide all of this, I need to know that you're putting in your effort too. And it's a team effort here, and he was already a good kid. He just worked a little bit harder, so he was in dailies through the rest of his high school career. Went on to college, and we've since lost touch a little bit. But I think that across the board, optometrists are happy to, that's the kind of people we are. It's the kind of communities that give back. And it wasn't just an Aaron thing. My staff really took over because they run my contact lens clinic. And so it became their engagement, not an Aaron engagement, but an entire Warner Optometry engagement.
To that point, and this is my opinion only, but I really feel like if we give the opportunity, not mandate it, but give the opportunity for the team, we call them paraoptometrics, we call them opticians, whatever the team, to be part of those clinics, be part of the planning of something, but back to understanding that we're giving back in different ways and opening it up to the staff to say, hey, here's an opportunity for you. Join me or not. Like, it's one of those things. I guarantee you, in my mind and what I've seen just through the practices, that's staff retention. And we're all looking for staff retention. And we talked a little bit about the profession. Well, that's a piece to this profession that I really enjoy. You enjoy. You don't enjoy the stories so much. That's kind of tugs at your heart, especially when it's a kiddo. But I think it shows, back to what we originally talked about when we kind of went on our tangent, it shows this is the profession. And it's really the full-rounded the profession. And I think that's a team. I hate to say it team building, because that's just, you hate to build on those type of things, but I guess building on giving back is a good thing. And not only do you mentored that kid. He'll remember that. You may have lost touch, but he'll remember that for a lifetime. Just guarantee you he will. Staff will also remember for a lifetime through all of the disagreements and through all the ups and downs. Staff will remember what a cool place Warner Optometry is, or Bridgeport Vision Source was, just in the things that we did. We would do, health fairs, just informational things and different things. And it was never mandated that a staff person had to go, and never mandated. We'd walk in the parades. I have been known to have a bear costume on for, I forget, Kansas used to do some philanthropic organization to just educating on eye care. And it was 100 degrees through a mile parade with this bear costume on. But it's just what we did. I had more fun. And we have fun as a team. It just builds us as a family within the team. And I think that's showing also back to that professional thing.
Yeah.
To this.
Oh, it's the bigger why, right?
It is.
Daniel Pink talks about it in Drive. Simon Sinek certainly talks about it in Start With Why, but it's the greater good. It's the work that we like to do, not the work that we feel like we have to do. Exactly. Well, no, very, very helpful. And I think that it's. I don't like the term marketing. Laura's going to kill me for this one, but I do think that as consumers, and our patients are consumers of healthcare, so but we don't like to call them customers. They're customers. They're consuming healthcare, and they get to choose where they want to consume their healthcare. And we like to align ourselves with organizations that have similar philosophies as we do. And if we're the type of people that like to give back, we like the type of people that like to engage in community, I think our patients want to know what we're doing. Not in a sense of, hey, look at us, how great we are, right? But hey, if you want to come along and help us, whether you're doing a roadside cleanup, whether you're donating and just collecting funds for optometry giving site, right? Whatever the case may be, I think they like to know that they have an opportunity to be a part of that, and they're engaging in an eye care practice that doesn't just take care of eyes, but takes care of the community.
Yeah, I think we don't tell our story enough. Not that we need to tell the individual stories. We just don't tell our story enough. You talk about the Lions Club. Like, the Lions Club's been around, I don't even know the history there, but a long time. And it's so cool to have I think that's international, if I'm not mistaken, an international organization right here that one of their key pillars is eye care. I think that's just, to collect the glasses and do all the things. And I know in our practice, we worked closely with the Lions Club. For some reason, the teachers, the community would reach out to the Lions Club when they had somebody in need, and those collaborative efforts with the Lions Club, then we could work with them to give eye care that way. And I think we just need to tell our story better. Call it marketing or tell it just your why. I know I will do business with an entity that has like-minded philosophical reasonings. I don't want to do something that's just transactional. I'll pay a little bit more to do business with somebody that is like me. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just feel like we don't tell our story enough. And there's, back to my thing, there's resources out there to say that you have networking, you have collaborative efforts with different organizations to get back to the community in need. If you're in need, give a shout out. We're here to help you. And I think that's some of the story that we maybe don't always, you just do it. It doesn't that it doesn't happen. You just don't tell that story as much as you should.
Absolutely. One clinic that, and I want to say they were in Arizona. I can't remember what Vision Source meeting I was at, but they were talking about this. And every month they have a staff member pick a different a local charity, national charity, international charity, whatever, and they donate a $1 for frame or something, right? I can't remember what it was, but they would share with their teams that, hey, this month, right, we're supporting this charity, and it was chosen by this staff member, right? So they get just a real quick paragraph on why they engage with it. I think one staff member did a cancer one was a local food bank, but it was a way for the staff member to be highlighted more than just staff member of the month. I didn't mean to mock that, but I don't like those, right? It doesn't highlight who they are. And
it's their why. You're really supporting their why. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's not so superficial. Pretty neat way. Yeah. So. I know there's nothing totally outside of eye care, but take a box of food to somebody in need and watch their face light up because they can eat. Yeah. Boy, we are so blessed, Aaron. Like, we are so blessed in my family, your family. But yeah, take a box of green beans to somebody or something. They are so in need. We just sometimes lose sight of that. I've known some animal shelters, give some love on a dog or something for a while. A staff member just really understands then that you as leaders, you as an office manager, the rest of my team, they all care about what I care about. And that's important. That's important. You do a great job in understanding people. But if you understand me, that draws us closer to being a team to do the greater good of what we come to do because you understand me. And I think that's where that trust. Is it trust?
Yep. Well, it's all about trust, right? And going back to my really poor analogy of dating, right? All those experiences, all those, the emotional connections is just to build up the trust. And that trust allows you to weather the good and the bad and everything else together. Because in the thick of it, when you're, got emergencies coming in and you're running 45 minutes behind and somebody called out sick and the telephone lines went down, yada, 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 right? Trust is what you have to work on to get you through the day. And so I think that's all these pieces together of it are important, both the education side that we started with, and certainly the non-tangibles, like the non-transactional, or at least the dollar transactional. Right? We're talking more about
team building. It's team building relationships, and I think the more that we give back, and it's not seen by patients, by our employees, and even by us, like, this is the real why. It'll get us through those crazy, crazy days, and I know there's crazy days going on.
There are.
We'll get through those because I think it is some sort of team building, relationship building, our true why as a team. So there's so many opportunities for philanthropic that both fill your own bucket, help you out, and help other people out. I think we just need to look maybe a little more to what some of those opportunities are. And I hate to say it, but it'll make us all better. It'll make us work harder. All the things. Absolutely.
I know I'm watching the time. Kind of wrap this up. If it's not your time, but your dollars, because those are important too. There's three main foundations and groups that you and I like to work with, and I think they'll have very different missions. Some overlap, of course, because we're in the optometry space. But the Vision Source Foundation, which supports doctors in need, not just Vision Source doctors, all doctors, right? And then Optometry Giving Site that we've grown up with, or I've grown up with in the industry, and then the One Site. Right? So I will put links to those below. And I don't think there's you're not competing and choosing one between another. I think they're all just very different, very strong, very good organizations, in addition to whatever we have in our local communities.
Your local communities, exactly. Your professional, giving back to your profession. There's so many opportunities out there, but definitely those three are just the building blocks to what we do. That's why we do what we do, Aaron.
It is. So, well, Tami, I really appreciate you taking time. I know we're at the end of the year, and you've got some family coming in. But I think that this conversation, especially after hearing the stories from North Carolina and just seeing the passion in your eyes and knowing your heart, I couldn't keep it a secret for just those who know you. I wanted to make sure we shared it with a greater audience. So I appreciate you making time to come on and chat.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks.
Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and our YouTube channel, both linked in the show notes. Now, here's something exciting. We're giving away a 1-year subscription to Comprehensive Optometry Simplified. All you have to do is leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, take a screenshot, and email it to me at questions@icodeeducation.com. We'll put that in the show notes as well. We'll be selecting a winner on December 15th, so don't miss your chance to get access to this valuable resource. Thanks again for listening. I can't wait to see your reviews.